All right. So David and Carrie, if you can go ahead and introduce yourselves, we welcome you to Wisconsin.
Thank you, Lori. And I'll do a quick introduction of myself and of the group. And there are some other members of the group here. And I will formally introduce Kija in a few minutes towards the end of, to let her really talk to you guys directly. My name is David Lehrschneider. I'm one of the principals of the NASH group. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are a company, an institute, a group in the United States with decades of experience in the workforce management area. We have worked with hospitals doing a lot of work related to all details of the methodologies, their staffing plans, their economic sizing, their patient placement and aggregation, everything that has to do with their scheduling, quarterly recruitment needs, everything related to workforce management, etc. Over the years, we have through the need of our own clients, we also have developed very nice international pipeline to create an additional global recruitment opportunity for our clients to complement all their workforce management. And we're going to focus a good part of the presentation on that particular area. I want to start, with me, there is Carrie, which is one of our executives in the company, Shannon, which is another one, obviously Debbie, which is my partner, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to interact with most of you. Let me start by basically saying that workforce management for the next decade requires basically three key ingredients. Obviously, you have to make sure that from your patient perspective, you have steady clinical assignments. We will be happy to, at some point in time, have a long discussion about that. From the staff perspective, you have to have a solid retention and recruitment strategy that works on those particular pieces, and you can never leave the financial pieces out. So from the finance perspective, you have to get to a place where you can deliver care without having to incur large premium differentials, a lot of premium pays. So with that in mind, I just wanted to kind of give you a little picture where actually I'll let you know that the recruitment and retention strategies, which we make a lot of emphasis, weigh not as much sometimes as what sometimes happens from the other two perspectives. They tend to sort of overwhelm what happened a day-to-day within the workforce management in the hospital. So, but this is important because at some point in time, we need to put them in balance, to have all three strategies be put in balance on the way they actually need to work. I wanted to mention that most hospitals have done a fabulous job or a good job implementing good retention strategies. They have for sure done the majority of what you see in the blue side of that slide, where people have done what we call the core retention strategies in compensation, in opportunities of growth and development, issues related with the positive work environment, obviously recognition, appreciation, and some issues related to work-life balance. Some other strategies that some institutions have or have augmented their retention strategies, issues related with the strong onboarding, mentorship, wellness, initiative, engagement, and some other pieces have for the most part kind of taken place. So the missing strong part of this equation is obviously the recruitment side of the equation. And that's what we're going to focus upon a bit of the presentation today. I don't want to start without briefly mention that there are 8 ingredients that everybody should have in mind or should have implemented. Most hospitals probably miss a good portion of this, but I wanted to at least mention them. But I'm going to focus on the number 8. Obviously, hospital needs to have very strong patient models, not based on hours of care, but based on assignments. Hospital needs to be managing their day-to-day activities based on admission, discharge, transfers, and not on average midnight census, which is a revenue base. Hospital needs to have methodologies that focus on patient placement, okay, and economic sizing rules or concepts that are really important. Labor pools needs to be determined based on people and not on FTEs. Hospital need to have schedules who, they are determined by seasonal fluctuations. And hospital need to have contingency staff to protect for the upper quartile, what happened on those, moments of additional activity. They must have anticipatory, they need to plan, they need to think, they need to plan anticipatory in terms of their retention, their recruitment and retention for the recruitment needs. And finally, and this is what we're going to focus the presentation today, they must establish the additional sources, a global recruitment pipeline, because the United States just don't have enough nurses to do the job. On that number 8, okay, exclusively. So just wanted to mention, there are not enough traditional sources to fill out the number of positions that the healthcare system of the United States requires. The new grad cycles, when the schools actually deliver their new classes every year, tend to be completely off of the financial hiring cycle. So this creates another big issue where they are never met, and it creates a lot of inks and premium differential costs inside the hospitals. Labor premiums are forced by using agencies, and obviously they are luring staff, and competitors and potentially maybe luring staff away from you are also creating financial hardships within the hospitals. The labor market has become very competitive, okay, with a strong pressure on salaries, obviously, and recruitment bonuses. This is all just part of the general equation. And finally, there is not a clear premium differential pay strategy. Most hospitals lack that, and they just panic, and they go into these bonus fares and try to do double time bonuses, all sorts of kind of things to try to control what actually happens in terms. So this is what brings us to the whole piece. Now, this is the most recent labor department statistics on what's happening in the United States. We are projecting by the time we start the next decade, by 2032 or so, the market will need somewhere around 3.4 to 3.5 million nurses, and we're going to have a gap of about 200,000, 177,000 nurses will be a gap. The country just doesn't have enough nurses to fill out that gap. So for some of you who see some of the cyclical movements of that and think that some things are kind of easing up or not, the shortage is not stopping, and it's just going to become worse. So I just wanted to make sure that people have that perspective. So that brings us to the main topic of today. There is a whole world of talent outside the United States that we need to be thinking of to help us complement, augment, and help us with our clinical operations in this country. This focus, creating this global strategy of this global recruitment strategy is of an essence. The problem with that is that pipeline is not an immediate pipeline. It requires efforts, it requires energy, requires thinking, and it requires planning, which most of our hospitals are ill prepared for that. They are not particularly good planners. They are not particularly, wanted to necessarily do these things the way it needs to be done to really take a full advantage of that. The important thing is that these pipelines are a source of exceptionally talent, well-devoted professionals with incredible skills that will really enrich the healthcare in the United States. So this is why it becomes a must build. Here are the three key issues that should keep in mind when you're building this type of pipelines. Number one, you you have to keep in mind that you're looking for a global staff that is educated and you have the experience that your institution, that your hospital actually needs. So it has to meet what you're actually looking for. Number two, the pipeline has to be sustainable. This is not something that can be on and off. It has to be something that can be sustained so it becomes a permanent source of talent for your institution, okay? Mostly because there is a significant time, as I mentioned before, to set it up, and the lead times related to the immigration, that becomes an essential part to making sure that you have that. And the third part, which I'm going to make larger emphasis, it has to be a direct pipeline. You cannot work with an agency because this way it provides ample cost differentials and advantages to your institution, and also provides all the necessary retention advantages that you are looking for. Okay? Obviously, you need to create something like that. You're going to need an institution that has certification. This cannot you just take anybody and start allowing to bring in people. You need people that have the certification, the qualifications, to actually do something like that. For example, obviously, it takes quite a bit of an effort to reach one of those elements and become a certified recruiter. But it's important that you also distinguish between what it is an agency, because it has been the more traditional way to try to bring global workforce, versus what is direct recruitment. The big difference lie on basically three main things. Number one is direct recruitment means the hospital is the employer of the global nurse, not an agency. You are the direct employer. They become your employee just like any other natural American nurse. There's no difference between the global nurse and this nurse. You, as the employer, you have direct control over your staff. Number two, obviously, you make all the hiring decisions. No, you don't have somebody else making the decisions of who is good, who meets your qualifications, and who meets your needs and your requirements. You, as the employer of choice, you get to make all those decisions instead of letting another third party sort of trying to make those decisions for you. And just because they have a financial arrangement with you, just place anyone in your institution. And the third part, which is probably of high significance, is obviously the huge price difference. The normal recruitment, the direct placement normally involve a single one-time flat recruitment fee to the institution, versus agencies who are normally premium fees. You are usually paying agency fees. They are commiserated, obviously, with number of hours that the people is committed to work to you. There are contractual time commitments for obviously sustaining those people, and oftentimes, or quite often, there are residuals costs related to that part. So it makes it way more financially onerous to go that route. Therefore, you should focus on a direct hiring model, as for those global pipelines. Obviously, you want to make sure that the candidates that come to you have been put through a rigorous selection. I won't go into the details of that, but important thing is that whoever is helping you recruit those individuals are giving you and are demonstrated that they are bringing you the high quality candidates that you are actually looking for. All global candidates, basically, they all comply with these 4 items here. Number one, they are sourced to mostly to be BSNs, or the equivalent of Bachelor of Science or nurses or better, with outstanding bedside experience. Most of them have many years of experience in the direct bedside, so they can offer you a wealth of experience on that source. Obviously, for many institutions, it's desirable to also be able to attract other candidates who actually meet the ADN format, the 3-year programs in some parts of the world. Those programs are very popular and they meet the requirements for ADN, and some hospitals are also interested on those individuals, so those are available. Obviously, because they come from a different country, everybody in this country need to speak English. English is the language of the country. We deliver care in English. Everybody has to have the bilingual standard. They must have passed an exam, proficiency exam, to demonstrate that they have that level. No one in the United States, as you all know, can deliver care as a nurse without having passed their NCLEX-RN. They have to be fully licensed in the United States, so they have to do all their accreditation, certification in the United States, and they have to pass exactly the same test with the same rigor that any other American nurse to have meet those requirements. And pretty much with the preferred categories that almost all of them come under a sponsorship as a full-blown U.S. resident. They arrive in the United States as a permanent resident in the United States under an employee-based EB-3 visa, which makes them pretty much being able to continue their life. There are some additional instances where some temporary arrangements can be made through a work visa. Obviously, TNs on HB1s. I'm not going to go into too many details on that at this point in time, unless in the questions you guys want to ask me something on that. But the absolutely great majority, well over 95% plus or more, come through the standard EB-3 permanent resident visa format. In respect to their preparation, obviously, their English, as I mentioned before, is paramount. English fluency, clinical dialect, so they have the clinical language, and important that they have been trained and have been made familiar with the U.S. healthcare system. The intention is they not only have passed the English language certification, but for licensing and immigration, they have a good command of the clinical English that they are going to need for their delivery of care, and obviously that they are prepared to be able to immediately enter the healthcare system in the United States. Dollars and cents, because obviously everybody wants to know dollars and cents. What is the dollar equation to something like this? So let me give you the general picture, and then I'm going to give you a specific example related to just overtime. The most recent Labor Department estimate of how much a nurse earns, and it comes from directly from the Labor Department. Obviously, we have our own statistics, which pretty much matches those numbers, but the Labor Department is the average salary of a nurse right now in the United States is somewhere around 86,000. The current cost that is taken to sustain empty vacancies in a hospital by paying overtime, by paying agencies, by paying bonuses, by paying grievances, costs related to not having the individual costs is, trust me when I'm giving you this number, this is a bit of an underestimate, is running at around $70,000 per open FTE. That, as you can compare, that is almost the price of filling up the vacancy. We are paying on premium differential very near, very close to what it actually costs to fill that vacancy with a straight pay person. That's what it costs to beg people for overtime, what it costs to, the additional cost that is being paid for those additional people that are being paid agency and all the other related premium. I'm giving you an idea. You can see it there. Normally, the recruitment fee to actually bring an international nurse into the United States, covering pretty much the bulk of what is actually needed, is running at around $37,500. I'm giving you actually a very good estimate. That's basically what is actually running. And this, the nice thing about that is that this obviously imply at least a 3-year commitment from that person to the institution. So this is a one-time payment that you will do as an institution in lieu of they committing to work with you for at least a 3-year commitment. That makes the 3 years labor savings per nurse at around $175,000, which makes the return on investment well over 450%. So it's pretty much, how we said, a no-brainer. The additional cost to having an international pipeline basically comes out to be about $6 above base salary versus what you will be paying on premium, which will be about, if I use the $70,000 I'm using there, which will be about 27, almost $28 additional per hour, which makes the savings well over 80%. So we're around 82, 83%. So the equation is pretty straightforward. Just because sometimes people have a hard time believing all this, I like to usually give them a simpler example that they can take home easy, and I tell them, forget agency, forget bonuses, forget grievances, forget anything else that you pay, but just simple overtime. That's something that most institutions can relate to. If you compare that your nurse, let's say on average, earns $40 an hour, and you estimate that just paying straight overtime and nothing else, you will be paying somewhere for that $40 an hour nurse, you will be paying about 21, just short of $22 an hour. That makes the cost of the average overtime for that one nurse across the hospital about $518 per day. If you obviously take into consideration that you have that opening for the entire year, that will be about 189,000. If you think that you're going to make this replacement for a 3-year commitment for a nurse, so we're going to multiply that times 3, that will make it well above, half a $500,000, $567,000. That's what that comes out to be. To cover that one opening, the 24 hours a day that you are using overtime to cover, you need to recruit 4 international nurses to do that. You need 4 people to at least cover that, because everybody only works so many hours a week. You need at least 4 people to do that. So you will be paying about $150,000. That makes, just against overtime, okay, savings of about $417,000 worth of savings, and just against overtime, an ROI of well over 278%. So the dollar equation of having these pipelines are pretty much a no-brainer. And if you don't trust my numbers, you can do your own. That's what I actually offer you, that picture there, because that way you can go and do your own numbers, and you will see how true those numbers are. So when you bring a nurse, what are you basically, what are on those fees? You're also covering all the immigration costs into the United States, all the assimilation costs is actually included into that part, all the travel and relocation of the individuals, and all the individual pieces are part of what you are actually incurring. So it's not like all these things are left out and suddenly they are going to come to later on. This is basically trying to make sure that we have everything in place to make a successful transition of that nurse coming from abroad to basically integrate, assimilate into your normal workforce and your institution. So with that in mind, I think I said enough just to give you guys a fairly good idea on that. And we invited one nurse, because sometimes good to hear from a candidate for a person who has been hired and is part of that. So we have the pleasure, and actually I'm going to let Carrie do a more formal introduction for a minute or two for Kia, and they will dialogue a little bit of what it took for her to come to the United States. She's going to tell us about her background, her experience, her preparation to come in to the United States, etc. So I'm going to let the two of them talk, and then we'll be happy to answer lots of questions from you. Carrie?
Okay, thank you, David. So it's my pleasure today to introduce you to Kija. Kija is a nurse from Brazil, and I have had the pleasure of knowing her for kind of over a year, I'd say, at this point in time. And Kija has really a spectacular background, so I'm going to have her kind of talk about how she, kind of what her background is and how we met up, and then talked about what was interesting to her in terms of working in the United States. So Kija, welcome. And could you tell us about your educational experience and your clinical experience, if you would?
Sure, thanks, Carrie. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thanks for the invitation. It's a big pleasure to be here. So, as a foreign nurse, I'm from Brazil, as Carrie told. When I started my process, I was completing almost 10 years of experience as a bedside nurse. My main experience is in emergency room, but I also have experience with mental health, family health, traumatology and orthopedics, teaching, administrative area, and I decided to start my process to United States because of many factors. Maybe the first one is about the competitive compensation. Another fact was about opportunity for my professional growth and development. And another point is because I have the chance to work in a very structured supported system. So I had to study for NCLEX. After NCLEX, I had to be prepared to my English proficiency to attend the immigration criteria. And after that, I started my process looking for hospitals, and the NASH group was very helpful with my journey during this, doing these steps.
So thank you, Kija. One of the questions that I have for you is, one of our goals is to make sure that we are working with people with terrific clinical experience, terrific educational background, and people who have a motivation to come and work in one of the best healthcare systems in the world, right? And again, Kija, you and I had a lot of discussion about how nurses need to work, how much work they need to do in your country of origin, and how the opportunity to have time to be with patients and families and to work with your colleagues. Can you just give us a little bit of information about what it looks like in your country and some of the things that you're looking forward to in working in this country?
Yes, based on my experience, I had a period of my life and I was working in 3 places. I had three jobs. I was studying, I was doing my doctorate degree, and I also was taking English classes. So at that time, I had no time to spend with my family. So looking for American health system, I could see that I will not need to work in 3 or maybe 4 places, because I know nurses that need to work in 4 places, especially if they have children. And United States, you don't need this. You only need to work in 1 job. You will have a better quality of life. You have the chance to change your lifestyle to a better lifestyle. You will have chance to raise your family if you don't have kids, and that's it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Another thing that we work on is we make sure that people are committed to working at a specific hospital. And the way that we do that is we see the skill set of the nurse and we look at the needs of the hospital and then kind of match the nurse and the hospital together. And if there's 2 or 3 hospitals, we make sure that we know everything about the hospital so that we can make a really good connection for the nurse to say, you know, this hospital is located in this area. Here's their mission and vision statement. These are the values that they embraced. This is the community that you would be living in. And the goal is to make sure that the nurse is choosing the hospital that they are committed to and that they would love to be working at, and a community that fits their specific needs. And then we ask them to choose which one hospital they would like to interview with. So the nurses don't interview with all the hospitals, and then there's lots of, well, where do I want to go? What do I want to, you know, and it's not good for you either, right? As the hospital leaders. So Kija, you selected your hospital, and tell me, how did that process go?
Yes, when I had my first meeting with Carrie, we had the first meeting was to Carrie knows who I am. I shared my background as a Brazilian nurse, and in the next meeting, Carrie came to me with options of hospital based on my previous experience, and I had the chance to choose the hospital that I want to work at. So I decided to go to a hospital in Chicago, as you could see in the picture, Paramount Specialty Hospital.
We think that's so important that, you know, that we get the information from the hospital because we work for the hospital, and really say, what are you looking for? What's important to you? Help me know all of that so that when I'm meeting with other nurses, I can really identify nurses that meet your specific needs. And once, you know, I try to get everybody together and say, does this work? Does this work? You know, you have the interview with the nurse, and the hospital makes the decision. We do the pre-screen, we do the pre-interview. We're not only looking for clinical skills, educational background, we're looking for all those wonderful soft skills that make all the difference in the world, right? Those are the people that you want taking care of yourself, your family, your patients in your hospital. And we really focus on that. You know, it's great to have the great clinical skill. Of course, we all need that. We accept that. We expect that that's exactly what we're getting. But those soft skills, kind, gentle people who are happy to cooperate with the providers and the other caregivers, people that want to help on a team, people with wonderful work ethic, you know, these are things that we're, you know, trying to match up. So Kija had her interview, and Kija said she was surprised that she was hired the same day that she was interviewed. I wasn't surprised.
I was very surprised because in my mind, this is maybe not my unique perception and my opinion, but in my mind, American nurses has so high level of everything, of education, of clinical experience, and I'm very surprised when I had the job offer the same day of the interview. I was not expecting, and thank you again, Carrie. Thank you again, the Nash Group.
It wasn't me, it was Kija. You know, it was her experience, her soft skills, all of the things that the hospital was looking for. And we as nurse leaders, when it's right, right? We know it. They made the decision to follow through on it. And Kija, tell me, we first met in November, and
Yes.
tell me the date that you had your
Our first
Your
meeting
offer?
was November 15th, if I'm not wrong, and my job offer, my interview with the hospital was December 6th, and my job offer was sent to my mail the same day. So less than 1 month, I had my first contact with the NASH group, and I had my job offer.
Mhm. So you can see our goal is to get it done, right? By the time somebody calls us, we know that you're not still thinking about it. You're actually wanting to do something about it, the action. So that certainly works with our philosophy. And so we were able to immediately hear what the hospital needed, search for the right people for those jobs, positions, and then really get it done. So, I think it's important that we understand the hospital's urgency, because we've all been that person in the hospital where we're trying to, solve our problems. So, Keja, how soon did you meet with the hospital attorney? When did you get your first notification from them after you got the hire?
1 week.
Mhm.
Yes, 1 or no more than 2 weeks after the job offer. Was very fast to start the process.
Mhm. So we help facilitate that. We work with these attorneys. They
Yes.
know us, we know them.
Mhm.
I know exactly the paperwork that's required for the first step of immigration for the petition. We work very hard to keep the hospital and the candidate aligned about what they need, and then in contact with the attorney.
Mhm.
So people get little nudge emails from us where we're like, okay, this is, the first step is here, and that means you, the hospital signatory person, needs to sign, and let's get this all done. So again, our urgency is the same as yours. Let's get this done. Let's meet with the attorney, get all the documents, and get the first step of immigration started. And
Yes, the first contact, the first mail that I received from attorneys was about the documents. The attorney was introducing herself and sending the list of documents that I needed to collect and send to her.
Mhm. So Keja, I know that we need to wrap up, but was this a good decision?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Definitely, definitely. And after travel 2 months ago to know the hospital, I was falling in love. The best decision that I made. And not only my opinion, this is not only my opinion, this is my family opinion. I'm not going alone. I'm not traveling alone. This is not on my process. This is a family process when you go to your family. And my family is also very happy and eager to finish all the immigration process.
Keja, it's so true. Out of the blue, Keja called about 3 months ago and said, hey, I'm going to come and visit. I'd like to go meet the chief nurse at the hospital. I'd like to look at the hospital. I'm so excited about all of this. And, so I met her and her husband at the airport, and we had a nice meal together, and just learned more about what Keja was excited about and so on. We facilitated a meeting with the chief nursing officer. She spent a day at the hospital, meeting with the people there, talking about, and again, I think, Keja, I think you felt like that was
Yes.
such a great opportunity to meet the people that you were working with, and again helps you be excited about your next step.
Yes, I had the chance to meet nurses, physical therapists, doctors, CNAs, a lot of people. And floor by floor, I had the chance to meet floor by floor. It was an excellent day. A very wonderful visit and time.
And I wanted to share that when we met with the chief nurse afterwards and said, so how did it go? Certainly Keisha exceeded every expectation that the nurse leader had and the people that she was meeting with. And the nurse leader mentioned, it's the things that she feels that the hospital is going to gain by having Keisha is somebody with a different perspective, somebody who's had very different work experiences, some very much the same, but some different. And she felt that the value to the hospital was the things that Keisha was going to bring to them and to help their nurses with their practice, to recognize that diversity is, a key thing in making us all better and so on. So that was my follow-up.
Before we take questions, which we're about to take, I wanted to just mention one minor thing. Almost always we give the hospitals a complete turnkey, basically, system where they don't really need to worry about the attorneys, the immigration, a lot of those things. We basically will provide everything from top to bottom to what they need. Obviously, after we have a very clear understanding of what the needs of the individual hospitals are, we will offer everything. I'd like to open up for those of you who are with us. I'm assuming nobody is shy here. To please ask us questions. We'll be more than happy to cover with you pretty much everything. And if I need to go back to any one of the slides, I'll be happy to go back. I will put them up there and also offer us our numbers and things like that. But I'll be happy to offer any questions.
Yeah, so I'll just kick it off. So David and Carrie, Keisha, what an amazing story and opportunity for healthcare organizations to consider this as a solution. I am super excited. It's something that I really was very unfamiliar with the process. And I think I'm probably not alone in Nurse Leaders of Wisconsin. In your busy day, it's like this is definitely a solution to the workforce shortage that oftentimes isn't top of thought. And so you probably think more about all the things that won't work. And I really appreciated the story because it really, brought it home that, and to see you and hear from you was real helpful. I think for me, I'm curious, and I'll be asking the Nurse Leaders of Wisconsin, who in Wisconsin is doing this? So nice to know our Chicago friends are ahead of the game there. But I don't know, Nash, if you have that data available. And I'm also very engaged with AONL. So I'm curious throughout our nation, what states are leading in utilization of
There are different systems and organizations in the country who are already trying to build this up. Almost every smart organization is making sure that they have these pipelines built, sometimes multiple of these pipelines built, to have alternatives and possibilities to do that. There are some institutions in Wisconsin, some hospitals in Wisconsin, particularly some who are part of some larger systems who are already participating on building some of those. Some of them are trying to do that. I want to emphasize for everybody, it takes a little bit of planning. It takes to get the pipeline going. But once it's built, it is one of the most successful operations that you can implement. You need to have a little bit of patience to get it built it will take usually about a year to two 2 years to have it, fully operational. So sometimes people get a bit impatient because they look at their vacancies today and they want this to be able to provide them their nurses today. And obviously the immigration process has a time that you have to comply with. But once the pipeline start working and we do the proper planning and the proper workforce management planning, the pipelines become probably one of the best decisions the hospital have done. They represent not only quality staff, very loyal staff, long-term retention, great issues in terms of patient care, not to talk again about the financial advantages that this brings to the hospital. So it's an all-around need that everybody has to have. It's just the counterpart of this that we normally tell people that you need to keep in mind is you need to do a little bit of planning. It takes about a year to 2 of patience to have the pipeline start giving you everything you need. And that patience is important. So when we do this from scratch, we usually make this an important issue with everyone.
And I can add to that by saying that what David's done, I really have to hand it to him, is the relationships that we've been developing in Mexico have been terrific. And what advantage that is for a hospital to really take a look at, can I tap on nurses that could come into the country using a TN visa, and they can literally show up like literally they could be here for Labor Day, to work. It's a very, very short turnaround time on a TN visa, but which does fill a need. But our big piece is really filling that need that's a bit down the road. So we've been trying to run both avenues so that we can work with hospitals to fill maybe this fiscal year's need, but also planning so that we get out of this crazy cycle of always being short. And that's what the long term does. Like Carrie, I know you've worked with hospitals that are taking 5 nurses this year, 5 nurses next year, and 5 nurses the year after.
No,
definitely. Even earlier than that.
Yeah, and even usually most of our hospitals working with us take much larger pools because they usually are looking for 20, 25 nurses as part of those pools to start really closing large gaps that they have. And the nice thing is that once the pipeline is working, you can manage those pools, how they come, how they arrive, how they integrate, when and where. So there's a whole very nice, very clean strategy and mechanisms to basically become this really nice time seasonal pipeline that is always working in your favor. To manage
and Deb and David, both good comments from both of you. When I'm helping hospitals fill their gap, people many times in the beginning think, oh, I think I'll hire, maybe 5 nurses. And that's certainly a start. But really, by the time we finish the conversation, hospitals want 3 CVOR nurses, they want an endoscopy nurse, they want 5 med-surg nurses, they want 5 step-down nurses, 3 ICU nurses. The good news is all of those nurses are available for every one of those clinical areas. And again, these are people with excellent experience. So it really, they really know that they're going to give them a terrific orientation when they arrive. But these people already know how to be nurses, how to do this work in all different areas. And that's usually a surprise to most people from the hospital. And they're like, you mean you have operating room nurses? Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you, Dita, for sharing your story. And I guess I'm curious where, and I see some folks, we're nearing our time, have to drop off, but I think continuing this conversation with specifically healthcare systems in Wisconsin will be really important because then I'd love to have a nurse leader in Wisconsin also be part of the presentation, like what here in Wisconsin, that we can then talk to that nurse leader and like say, what did you do to promote this, and how did you get this started, and what are your specific lessons learned, and those kind of things. I think it'd be helpful.
Yep, very good.
Because yeah, I think it's a little complicated, but so is everything, like you've just really in an hour shared how easy it can be, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff
yeah.
that I know
Mhm.
would
Uh,
put nurse leaders maybe at ease. Like,
Sometimes some hospitals may have done some little steps. Somebody offered them a friend or a couple of friends who came that particular route, but that is a start, but not really the strategy you need. You need to have a formalized pipeline, workforce management plan. That requires a bit more thinking. Otherwise, what happens is people have some good successes. They'll show one or two good placement, but they don't have the full-blown strategy that really helps them change the gap. So their
right.
executive team don't always see the value because they say, okay, we have good success, but didn't solve my problem. Didn't really help me solve my problem. So it requires a bit of an adjustment and thinking that's part, obviously, what a more seasoned strategy kind of help, obviously, something like what we propose. That is required. Little steps are good, but that's not enough. It's just those are kind of like getting your feet wet, but you really need to have the plan in place, and that's what makes a big difference.
Yeah. Dita, where are you working?
Hija, Hija,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Hija. Uh,
Hidja?
yeah.
Me?
No.
Oh, Dida. I'm sorry, Dida.
Yeah, Dita.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get myself off mute. I'm at Beloit Memorial Hospital.
Oh, you are. Okay. See, so then that is so awesome to hear.
Uh,
Yeah.
Dida, those two nurses were part of just a couple of nurses, or are they part of a larger ongoing international recruitment that you just bring as part of your recruitment?
So I'm one of the clinical managers of acute care,
Mm-hmm.
of 4 different units. So of those 4 units, we have 3 Avant nurses. And like I said, 2 of those nurses' husbands are also nurses and now work here. I mean, I know that our surgery department also has 1 or 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Vita at Beloit Memorial. So we currently have 1 Avant nurse, and we're getting another Avant nurse on Monday.
Yeah. Obviously, the difference between Avant is an agency. So remember that there are different between what they offer as an international recruiter. They are an international agency recruiter. Their nurses are, for the period of time you have their commitment to them, the 2.5 or 3 years, you have an agency commitment, not a direct hire. So there are important differences between what a company like Avant offers versus what a direct recruitment strategy offers you, and dollar-wise are quite different too.
Good to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, I think this has been very informative. I know we're beyond our time. I just want to thank everyone that participated. Also, thank you for the PowerPoint and recording. Tomorrow I'm in Madison talking to hundreds of nurses across Wisconsin as we work collectively in Wisconsin to look at strategies to support our nursing gaps. And this certainly, I'll make sure that I bring this to the table tomorrow. And now I feel a little bit more informed about the process. I really, as a nurse leader for 38 years, never really was involved in the recruitment of international nurses. So I
Thanks,
think
Denise. Thanks very
it's
much.
a great idea.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Kija.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You did an excellent job.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.